Okay, this is Unit 9 review for Algebra 1. First question, we need to find which expression is equivalent. So w to the third power and w to the eighth power is the same thing as w to the 11th power, right? There's 3 w's here, 8w there. So all together you have 8, 9, 10, 11. So what you need to do is see which one of these is also w to the 11th power. Well, the A is w to the 6th power. B would be w to the 10th power. C would be w to the 11th power. So C would be the answer. Okay, number 2, we need to simplify. Remember that B has an invisible 1. So you have a total of B to the 14th. If you're not sure, we're adding the exponents. Another way you can do that is you have 1B here. You have B times itself 5 times. And then finally you have B times itself 8 times. So if you count how many B's you have, you'll see you have a total of 14. Okay, so number 3, we have a power to a power. When we have a power to a power, we multiply the exponents. So we'll get w to the 28th. If you're not sure how to do that, I can also write w to the 4th power 7 times. Okay. And you'll see if you count them all, you'll have 28. So whenever we have a negative exponent, remember we have to move, since it's on the bottom, we have to move it to the top, to the numerator. So we're going to get d to the 4th, and then there's an invisible 1 underneath. So it's just b d to the 4th. Again, negative exponent, we move into the bottom. Remember, there's always an invisible 1. B to the 7th does not change because that's not a negative exponent. And we have B to the 5. So altogether, we're going to have B to the 12. Okay. So again, power to power, I can distribute and multiply the exponents. So I'm going to have 6 to the 1 times 2, U to the 2 times 2, and B to the 4 times 2. So that would give me 36, U to the 4th, B to the 8th. If you're not sure how to do the power to power or when to multiply, you can also write whatever's inside the parentheses twice. And then simplifying by putting the numbers together, the u's together, and finally the v's together. So we're going to subtract our exponents since there's more, since the number on the larger on the bottom, there's more z's on the bottom than there are on top. It's going to remain on the bottom. So 2 minus 5 is 3. So we have 1 to the z over 3. Again, if you're not sure how to do that, you just write z squared means z times itself twice. Z to the 5th means z times itself 5 times. So we're going to reduce. And notice how we're left with z times itself 3 times on the denominator on the bottom. And there's a visible 1 on the top. Okay. Since we're dealing with the negative exponent, first thing we're going to do is we're going to move everything to the bottom. Okay. Since we have a power to a power, you can distribute to both. Remember that 2 has an invisible 1. And negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4. So then we're going to move the negative exponent to the top. So we have k to the 4th over 4. So first we're going to simplify our numbers. 8 and 16, we're going to simplify by 8. 8 goes into 8 one time. 8 goes into 16 4 times. Then we're going to deal with our numbers. So once again, since it's a fraction, we're going to subtract. And notice that there's more 8 on the denominator on the bottom. So the 8 are going to remain on the bottom. So I'm going to have a Right, 12 subtract 3 is 9. 8 goes into 16 twice. So again, negative exponent means we need a flip. So this becomes 2 over third to the 3 powers. So once again, just means you can write it 3 times, which is just going to give you 8. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So we're going to start with our numbers. Then we're going to move to the k's. And finally, we're going to do the m's. So with the numbers, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that's going to remain on top. There's more k's on the bottom, so I'm going to remain a k on the bottom. And if I subtract them, I get 7. The m's, there's more m's on the top, so the m's are going to remain on top. And once again, if I subtract them, I get 9. Different ways we can do this. Since this is a power to a power, I can multiply. So I'm going to have 3 squared times w6 times x to the 10th. And bring the second one down. So 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to put the numbers together, the w's together, and then the x's together. Just to kind of see, makes it simpler to see. 9 times 5 is 45. W to the 6th power times W to the 6th powers is W to the 12th. We're adding the exponents. Remember, this means W times itself 6 times. And this also means W times itself 6 times. So we have a total of 12. And then finally, we have x to the 17th. Once again, we're adding the exponents. Okay, so we have two negative exponents. The h to the negative 7 has to go on top, and the h to the negative 2 has to go on the bottom. Notice that d to the 5th has to remain on top. So we're going to move the h to the 7. Once we move, negatives become positive, and h squared. So now we're going to subtract the h's. Since there's more h's on the bottom, on top, it's going to stay on top. So 7 subtract 2 is 5, and there's an invisible 1, but I can just write it without the invisible 1. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put all my numbers together. Kind of makes it easier. All the d's, put them all underneath one fraction. I'm going to be able to reduce here by 3. 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 6 twice. So I'm going to have negative 1 over 10, 2 times 5. Now I'm going to deal with the top d's first, the d's in the numerator. Since they're together, we're going to add them. Now I'm going to deal with the d's on the numerator. Again, they're together, so we're going to add them. So d times itself 5 times, right? D times itself twice, d times itself 3 times. So together, d times itself 5 times. Since it's a fraction, we're going to go ahead and subtract them. Since there's more d on top, they're going to remain on top. And 13 subtract 5 is 8. Remember that 1 does not need to be there. It's invisible. We understand that it's there. And the negative, it doesn't matter if it's on the top, in the middle, or on the bottom. Notice that in this case, the negative's on the bottom. It means the same thing. Right, so we have a power to a power, so we're going to put an invisible 1 on the 6th, and we're going to distribute the 2 to all the exponents. Since it's a power to a power, we're going to multiply. So 1 times 2, it's 2. 5 times 2, it's 10. 7 times 2 is 14. And then 9 times 2 is 18. So notice my h's. I'm going to have 36. Since there's more h's on the bottom, they're going to remain on the bottom. So I'm going to have h times itself 8 times because I'm subtracting them. And then I still have k to the 14 on top. Alright, so after n minutes, there's going to be this many fungi. So how many fungi will there be after 4 minutes? So what you're going to do is wherever you see an m, you're going to substitute a 4. I'm going to have f equals 4 times 2 to the 4th. Remember, order of operations, you always do exponents before you do anything else. So 2 to the 4th means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which means 4 times 2. 8 times 2, so it means 16. So I have 4 times 16, which would be 64. Okay, so what number would you add to complete the square? So notice they're not asking for the solutions to complete the square. They just want you to know what number you would add to both sides to complete the square. So we're going to go through the step. First step, we're going to add our blank. We're going to get the coefficient of x divided by 2 and square it. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. 7 squared is 49. That's what I'm going to add to both sides. So we just answered the question. What number are you going to add to complete the square? We're going to add 49. Okay, number 18 is a little bit different than the problems that we have been doing. Usually the problems that we do are equal to 0. So if they're equal to 0, we could use the zero product property. This one's a little bit different because it's not equal to 0. So instead of just using the zero product property, first thing you're going to have to do is distribute the x. Second thing is you're going to move the negative 24 to the left. It becomes a positive. And then you're going to factor. So two numbers multiplied together, that gives you x squared. Two numbers multiplied together, that gives you 24. That when you add them, it wants to give you 10x. So 6x plus 4x is 10x. So my factors are x plus 6, x plus 4. Okay, now because it's equal to 0, we can use the zero product property. So x plus 6 is equal to 0, x plus 4 equal to 0. So we're going to move the 6 to the other side, and we're going to move the 4 to the other side. So my answer is x equals to negative 6 and x equals to negative 4. Okay, so which one of the following shows 49u squared minus 56u plus 16 factored completely? So we're going to factor using guess and check. So we need two numbers multiplied together that gives you 49u squared. So that's 7u and 7u. Two numbers multiplied together that gives you 16. Correct. 4 and 4. Since it's negative, both of them need to be negative. And you can check to make sure that it gives you negative 56u. So we're going to have 7u minus 4, 7u minus 4. Or another way I can write this, since there's two of them, is 7u minus 4 squared. Okay, which of the following shows factored completely? So once again, I'm going to guess and check. Two numbers multiplied together, that gives you 49. Z squared, 7z and 7z. Two numbers multiplied together, that gives you 16 over 25. 4 over 5 and 4 over 5. Since it's negative, one has to be positive, the other has to be negative. So when we write it, remember you always write it going across. The answer is B.